They're coming at us thick and fast from Azibo Studios in Bordeaux. This week we're going to have a quick look at the Feature Discovery Series Episode 4 Cockpits and just have a little bit of a chat about it and see what new things that they have come up with in Microsoft. This is just my point of view as a long-time simmer since the first one ever came out, which is this one, and as a long-time flight instructor for many years. So let's have a look first at the analog cockpits they're showing us. They say now that the logic of the instruments are to behave like in the real world. For example, simulated data such as the oil pressure may change due to the temperature. This is due to the viscosity of the oil. So for example, the oil gets thinner when the temperature gets hotter. It gets thicker when the temperature gets colder. So this is really in depth. I'm just going to pause it a little bit and just have a zoom in and just have a quick look around the cockpit. What I like about this particular image they've sent us is that it's not brand spanking new. And this is not a new thing. X-Plane and various other developers have been doing this for years, but I'm just glad Microsoft are on board with that. And I like the way they have scuff marks, the stains around the cockpit as it's not new, and it just gives you that extra air of realism. So happy days. They've also shown us a clip of the night lighting in one of their aircraft. Now, this is a nice feature. They've really improved on that. And just look at this clip, look. That's like real, okay? That's really realistic the way the lights have come on. Now, you wouldn't be flying at night time with the lights blaring like that because that will ruin your night vision, which is very important for night flying. I'd have them turned down for a bit more than that. But I have to say, it looks good. And if you look outside the window here, it looks real to me. I've flown at night time in the US many, many times, and it looks real. It looks really good, except for the people missing from the cockpit, of course. This is the glass cockpit of the TBM. It looks absolutely fantastic. They say all the touchscreen elements of the aircraft are simulated as well, with all the logic systems as you would expect with the touchscreens. I presume you use the mouse with the touchscreens, which is great. Also, the good news is they, as I kind of would expect, they have integrated SIDs and stars as standard. Now, what is a SID for those of you who don't know? A SID is a standard instrument departure, and a star is a standard terminal arrival. This is for flying with instruments only if you can't see out the window, for those of you who are not sure, but this is really good fun on Flight Simulator. Now they say there's also, actually I have to mention to you, while I'm looking at this, when I buy an add-on for my current X-Plane Flight Simulator, you'll see finger marks. See the screens there? They look too clean to me. So you see finger marks, kind of scuff marks where they've wiped down the glass and it's not quite clean. I just feel it looks too new, but I'm sure they just haven't implemented that yet. The devil is in the detail. Speaking of detail, they've done a stellar job with the lighting. Look at the lighting. There's no jagged edges at all. The lighting, the shadows coming from the sun into the cockpit. And they said this is the actual sun angle. This is as real as it gets, so absolutely good-o. Now, my favourite bit about the whole thing is this checklist. Just from my own opinion, I'm not an Airbus pilot, so one time I said, right, I'm going to do an Airbus video and I do all the checks and whatnot, and I've never flown before, so what did I find myself doing? I had to go and look up YouTube to see how somebody else does the checklist, where all the buttons and switches are. So you're running to your sim, then go back to YouTube and go back, and I said, oh, this takes too long. This is just too much time. I've got to move on and produce the video, so I leave the Airbus for the moment and I'll come back to it because it takes a long time. But with this checklist system, okay, it tells you where everything is and it moves the camera for you, so you don't have to go looking for it. This is brilliant. This is the best feature, I think, in my opinion, so far. So they call it contextual cursors and tooltips, and they will bring you through the checklist system as of the POH. That's the Pilot's Operating Handbook. Now, on some of the airliners, they may have different checklists because they have their own procedures. Now, they haven't shown us any Airbuses or Boeings yet, but I have to say that's the best out of the lot so far. They didn't talk about this in the video, but I noticed the weather radar down here to the right, okay? Now, sorry for redoing the clip over and over again, but they didn't do a lot of the clip. Now, you see the weather radar there to the right, okay? And if you look outside here, you can see this kind of bad weather ahead. And you can even see the columns of rain or the rain shafts coming down from the clouds as you come out of the clouds, as in here, okay? Now, I think that's a great feature because on the weather radar, I can kind of see that it matches. It seems to match to me. So this is just something I noticed. I may be wrong, but it's just something I noticed, and they're probably going to be talking about the weather radar down the line. So yeah, more things to look forward to. Right, next. Will all your peripherals work on Microsoft 2020 when it comes out? Yes, it will, and they'll have a new system that'll be easier to integrate all your joysticks and whatnot. So good there. This is their flight simulator. They're showing you that they have in Bordeaux just to test all the bits and pieces out. So you home cockpit builders, no problem. It's all going to work apparently. They also talk about they have improved immersion with 4K PPR. Now, this looks brilliant, not just because of the graphics, it's because of the accurate simulation of the sun, the atmosphere, and all the lighting comes through into the cockpit. So all the shadows, as I previously mentioned, etc., are all interlinked with the atmosphere and the colouring and the shading of the light here on Earth, which looks really, really good. Now, they talk about some signs here, how they've got a tricorder here, I think. Spock, what do you think?
Fascinating.
Yeah, they got a tricorder. I'm not going to talk about that because I don't know. But look, they're putting a lot of science into it, is what I'm saying. They talk about also the sound. Now, he kind of talks over this bit, but it looks really... The sound, they've spent a lot of time. Let's have a listen to what he's talking about just here in this very clip.
The sound is also a very important input when flying. In order to have great simulation, we have introduced a completely new scripting system based on WISE. This system ties the simulation data to the sound banks and is using a real-time DSP to modulate the sound to make it match the plane parameters.
At last, the only two senses we can use for flight simming are sight and sound, and they're really paying attention to the sound it appears in Microsoft 2020. The last thing they pretty much talk about is what's called Headshake. Now, when you're flying an airplane, your head isn't rigidly stuck and fixed to the cockpit. It kind of keeps its, moves around a bit according to the G-forces and what you feel. And I can't really see it here, but they say they're implementing that with 2020, which is going to be great because it's a bone of contention with me to having to pay for these little details as add-ons. So, that's great. While I'm talking to you here, it has occurred to me that I've paid for hundreds of dollars, pounds or euros per hour to sit in an actual commercial flight simulator, okay? It costs an awful lot with the instructor and all the rest of it. But I have to say, what I've noticed over the years, and I'm talking about 10 years, is that when I've been playing X-Plane, and certainly it's going to be Microsoft 2020, is that the graphics, never mind the whole physical cockpit, but the graphics, all the weather and everything else that comes with it, is better than a multi-million-dollar flight simulator. Okay, I'm telling you, okay, they're on pistons and they move and all that stuff. Forget about all that. But with regards to the graphics and the outside environment, it's a no-brainer. They're much better than commercial flight simulators so far, as I found. I'll do a video on this one day. I'd be very curious to go around to a few flight simulators and just show you why that is. So, when 2020 comes out, guys, you've got something pretty damn good. I'll see you next week, next Friday, on the Reaction Review. Thanks for watching. Oh, glad Spock made an appearance.
Why, thank you.
Spock, you're here. What did you think of Microsoft 2020?
I had a very strong reaction.
Spock, please don't say it's fascinating every 5 minutes, would you?
But it is...
Don't say it.
Interesting.
Spock, will you help me out with this, please?
Very simple.
Okay.
Amplitude modulation transmission.